Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another installment of Transition Talks with Athlete Soul, where we discuss the stories of transition with former elite athletes and what they have learned throughout the process. I'm your host, Steve Davis Jr., former football player, athlete transition coach with Athlete Soul, and the founder of Strive Higher at Sports. Now, today we get a chance to talk to Des Hamilton, who's a former All American track and field athlete at Rider University and USC. Dez has been involved in the entertainment media industry in his career post sports, and he loves to be creative. Dez also experienced an injury that ended his playing career. So I'm excited to talk a little bit further about this and learn a little bit more about Dez. So let's jump right in. All right, all right. Welcome, Dez, to the show. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good, Steve. Nice to be here.
Yeah, we were so happy to have you here and jump into an interesting conversation about your life and your transition. I know you did track and field, so why don't you tell us a little bit more about your experience and how'd you got into track and field?
Yeah, totally, man. I grew up, I was always a runner, always loved to be free, out in the open field. That's where I kind of found my speed, started racing kids around racing kids on the block and slowly started to climb the ranks there. High school had some success there and then 100, 200, 400, long jump, triple jump. That helped give me a scholarship in the rider. When I was at Ryder, I had a lot of success there. Got a lot of conference championships in the 100, 200, and won the IC4 in the long jump, and that helped to get me another scholarship to go to USC. So after USC, I competed there, and it kind of sunsetted my career there. I got injured, while I was at USC. So, definitely a long journey and a fun one for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. Well, we're gonna touch on that in a second, but let's just talk a little bit further about, your accolades while you were in college. You sounds like you did 100, 200, long jump. Um,
Yeah.
I thought I saw you like in the Hall of Fame or something. Like, tell us a little bit more about, all the things that you did.
Yeah, totally, man. So I started off as a multi-event athlete. In high school, I did the 100, the 200, primarily, speed and explosivity. I was forced to do the 400 only if, coach asked me to, right? But yeah, like I always had asthma, so I focused on the short sprints and also the jumps as well. Never really been a vertical jumper, always been a horizontal jumper, for length. So in high school, I led my team to a sectional championship, and then I also got a state championship in the long jump, and I broke the high school record in the triple jump. And At the same time, I was starting to climb the ranks in the 100 and 200. When I went into Rider University, I broke the university records in the 100 and 200 and the long jump as well. For the long jump, my sophomore year, I qualified for the IC4A, which is kind of like the Northeastern region championship, right? All the big D1 schools. I was ranked 30th. Like there was very low expectations on me, and I actually won that meet, and at the time, when I won that meet, I had put 2 feet on my long jump. I jumped 25, 8 feet. My prior jump had been about 24 feet, and that had ranked me at 10th in the world and third in the country at the time, and qualified me for the Olympic trials. Yeah, I mean that one jump changed, kind of changed my trajectory, and I had some challenges with Rider University, and I had to make moves through the transfer portal. USC was on the other side of the portal. So after I got there, I focused more on the sprints. I did have, I unfortunately I had suffered a lower back injury. Squatting weights, and I herniated my L3. Shortly after I transferred, so I battled with injuries and focused more on the sprints and we won the Pac-10 championship in the 4x1. I was on the 4x1 team, and we also run the regional championship as well. At the time, it was a Pac-10. I don't know what it is now. And then we went to NCAA's too. So Had some success in the long jump. It was a fun ride. It was a lot of it was a long ride, with
Yeah.
track and so yeah.
Yeah, a lot of great things that sounds like you've been, accomplishing there. But you also talk about the injury. So let's get into that. Like,
Well,
what
Steve,
was
yeah.
that like and how did that like affect your transition?
Yeah, but when I saw this talk, in transition, I thought about that injury and yeah, that the injury changed everything, right? Like before it happened, I was on top of my craft. I was world ranked in the long jump. Skies was the limit. I was going from a small D1 school to a large D1 school, and at the blink of an eye, I'm just in a friend's backyard trying to during the you know during the preseason, just getting ready for the trying to make the Olympic team, trying to get a Nike deal, and I was deep squatting, and I felt a pop in my back, and everything changed, right? So for me, I knew that things were going to be different because my explosivity had been my strength. I was squatting over 500 pounds. I was doing all the plyometrics, all the deadlifts. Like I was very powerful. So I'm like, how are you going to jump 26, 27 feet and you can't squat the same way you used to? So I kind of mentally started to focus more on academics and transition all like a lot of the energy and focus to more of a mental pursuit, more of an academic pursuit in curriculum. I took some of the same tools I used in athletics and applied them to the classroom, kind of as a hedge. So I started to transition that way,
Hmm.
and it ended up being healthy. Kinda. So that at the time it was a healthy transition. Like it was a healthy application, I think, of all the momentum I had built up and all the passion and love that I had for being a peak performer.
Hmm.
So when I got to USC, I really wanted to be in the business school in the accounting program, and it was a very rigorous program, and there weren't a lot of us in the program, and you needed a 3.3 in order, like average, in order to get in. And to me, that was my new endeavor. So I just used that energy and transitioned it at the time, but that's how I dealt with the grief. And
Yeah,
I still try to show up to my teammates as well.
yeah. Yeah, you mentioned grief because like unexpectedly an injury ends all those hopes and dreams where you're at the top, you're at the peak, where you're almost at the Olympics. Um, at that time, obviously trying to pour that energy into something else, but had you already thought about what your life would look like without track and field before that moment? Or was that like a wide opening like experience for you?
Yeah, no, I had not thought about it, and I was thinking about it in real time. I was wondering if I could find, we when I got to USC, we saw they set me up with some of the best doctors that like the best doctors that they had. Some of the same doctors that saw some of the elite athletes that, left out of the program were seeing me and trying to figure out um, how they could fix what was happening because the actual trauma was happening on my jumping leg. I was having nerve issues throughout like my ankle, so they were trying to see if there were any solutions. So I still had hope. I still had hope, and I still was kind of fighting for that dream. Um, but at the same time, I was also gaining passion and momentum in this other realm.
Hmm.
That was very. It was giving me a very, it was a very rich. I was getting very rich returns on the other side, I would say. So that helped with the transition, but yeah, definitely led to some grief and some. I would say some. I still have not. Well, like I'm still probably dealing with some of the transition and I guess the former identity, right?
Yeah.
And putting it to rest, right? Putting it to rest, honoring the former person, the former athlete. So
Yeah. I mean, that's a big part of our lives, man. When we go into a sport and you played it for a long time, you played it at the highest level, and all of a sudden it's gone. Like, yes, that's a hard piece of yourself to let go, and it will never go away, right? Um, but as you transition, you poured your energy into the business school, kind of focusing your energy on getting in that pathway. But how did you land into like the careers that you have had? How did that come about?
Yeah, well, so when I started to pour into academics and accounting and finance, I mean, I really was just pouring into my passions. I had a passion, very curious person, and that curiosity, was ignited, when it came to business and economics. So I just poured into it, and then I started to gain momentum, and then I put in the hours, like the same time that I put into sports. I would get up and I go to the library at 6 a.m. and just like stay there, and take notes and try to learn and program information into my brain. So um, I started to excel academically, in a very rigorous program, and that started to feel similar to getting a gold medal in the 100-meter dash. And I just poured into that, and that led me into I had decent GPA in the accounting program, and then I got a job at a Big Four accounting firm from that. Now how I got that job through the National Association for Black Accountants. Right, I was part of this organization that helped me get that job. But yeah, after I was at Ernst and Young, then other opportunities opened up thereafter. After 2 years of being a public accountant, so after doing that for 2 years, I realized it wasn't the industry for me.
Mm, mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
um,
No, that's part of it. Get out there and experience, and sometimes you make that pivot.
yeah,
Um, let's talk about, as you're out in this real world now and you've worked at a number of cool places. I would love to
yeah,
hear about like what do you enjoy most about what you do now, if you can talk about that. And
yeah.
then the other side of it, just thinking about a lot of us pour our energy into the professional realm when we get done. But what are you doing? What are you tapping into to help like fulfill you outside of just like the athletic side that you used to have?
Yeah, yeah. I always talk about creativity. I so like in parallel to being an athlete, I've always been a bit of a creator and a creative, and I love talking to creative people. And when I started to get momentum in school and academia, and then in my career, um, like to me, it really was just a creative process. Like it didn't matter what the topic was. It could be technology, it could be finance, and um, I had, to me, this was a parallel love. So I used that creative process and that love for creativity to really drive my career. Like after I left audit, I began, like public accounting, I began to audit video game studios. And auditing video game studios, I learned about game development. And learning about game development, I was like, then I built a platform for game developers to learn from each other. I worked with a bunch of smart people like engineers and designers. So the passion for creativity, it also helped me relate to other creatives who were building technology that people loved. And I took that same passion to Meta, and worked with other different types of creatives. These were like streamers for Facebook gaming, trying to garner followers with their live streams, playing video game content. But like I like grew a passion for working with creators and creatives. And now at TikTok, what I do is I help creators garner followers. I help them earn money, get advertisement deals, and I think yeah, like I love getting up every morning and supporting people trying to like make money doing what they love. So to me, the parallel journey with creativity, that's my other love. And I think I just pour into that and I followed that passion. And I think it's been pretty rewarding to me on the other side. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you already have that passion for creativity when you were playing, or did you like discover that afterwards?
You know, I already had it, I would say. Like before I was got into sports, I was making like content on my Sony Vio's computer using some 3D movie maker content. I played in the band, I sang the chorus. I used to beatbox and talent shows. So I come from a musical family, so I think art and creativity is kind of just part of how I grew up. So yeah, that's helped a lot with the transition. Like the careers within creativity are like to me, that's more of the I use my athletic programming to crank through those, positions and to figure out like the new landscapes and the new, there's always new problems to solve. But yeah, the passion, I think the passion fuels the execution and it fuels the success. So yeah, like, I would say, yeah, like just finding a different passion outside of athletics and seeing how that can fuel and drive you.
Yeah,
Um, that could be an answer or help with the transition.
yeah.
So
No, I love that. And it seems like you've used that energy, that you developed from sports and track and field and open up your mind and driving your mind to be creative to help others in that space, which is really cool. Um, Thinking about like the process of what you've developed and learned from track and field, and now you're in this area where you're working as a professional, kind of far removed from the experience. If you had to talk to yourself back in college and say, "Hey, here's something that you need to prepare for that transition," what would you say to yourself?
yeah, I would say um like knowing what I know today, I would tell myself that uh because I already knew about putting in the work and like putting in the hours to get the outcome. But I think the the risk, like I was pretty conservative, like I could have took more gambles, and I would tell myself just to trust myself and follow your passions and be like relentless about it, earlier, and then put the hours behind those passions though, and take calculated gambles. So yeah, that's probably what I would tell myself,
Well,
and also to that it's okay to still be an athlete. I think I tried to bury the identity so that way I could like step into this new one, and then later on I felt this like almost like a trauma effect. Like it's like wait, like you have to grieve this old identity. You got to go back. You have to nurture it. Learn about it. Because once I started to like sit on a laptop and work on like in a corporate structure, like my body went through a lot. Like there was no coping. It was from 0 to 100. I started getting all type of ailments and little micro injuries and like GI issues and all. So yeah, like I would also tell myself to seek some coaching and seek some guidance, like get some tools, get some help. Don't just try to crank it out the same way that you've been doing in the past. So
yeah. No, that's real, especially, being a former track and field athlete where a lot of it's individual achievement, right? And success. You go out to the real world and you're trying to crank it out by yourself again. So kudos to you to just thinking about like, what are the resources I need to help me in this process? Because I can't operate in the same way because it's detrimental to me, to my health, my emotions, and all those different things that come with it. I got one last question for you, given that you're in the creative space and you like to help people like build on their creativity to like sell themselves. To me, it sounds like branding. And
yeah.
college athletes now have to focus a lot on branding, NIL, and really kind of building their story. What advice would you offer to inspire like student athletes now in track and field and just in general to help them take advantage of the opportunity for branding, but also set themselves up for future of who they want to be and what they want to become?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I mean, the first thing I probably would tell these student athletes is that you know, your your internet identity is is very important and also very valuable, and it's a tool to be of use, and 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 be careful how you use it. You can use it, you can use it either one way in a positive way, you can use it in
Right.
a negative way, where you will pick the roads. That's the first thing is like, and it's really up to them now. Like if they pick the positive road, then there's a lot of things you can do with your presence, with your likeness, and there's a lot of ways that you can curate that content. Um, in a minimal viable way, depending on how much time you want to put into it. So I would just tell them about the importance of it in a sense of like that's how people. It's not this is not a world where people are meeting physically anymore. And as much as I wish it wasn't this. I do like I did grow up in a way where we didn't have all this technology, but this is just the way of the world. And I think once you realize that, then you realize the power of the tools. There's a lot of power in these tools. So I do think it's a great vehicle for these athletes today to grow their likeness, and use their likeness if they want to, or like even if they don't, just to have a presence where people can find you is a value. So,
Yeah.
but don't get caught up in the comments. Like that's what I would leave them with: is stay away from the comments, stay away from the emotions. Uh, don't because all that content is algorithm generated and recommended to keep you in the threads, and it can be very like harmful to a person's emotional state. So
Yeah.
you just have to have rules and guardrails for how you navigate that realm.
Yeah. No, that's real because, seeking the validation from everybody else, but also the positives and the negatives that come with that, getting the endorphins from the likes and the follows versus, as you talk about, like the boldness of building the brand and, the likeness that you're trying to create out there for folks to see you as you. Um, but yeah, I I wish a lot of support for these student athletes currently because of all of the things that they have access to and the amount of eyes that are on them during that process. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, and yeah, like you said, like getting like not getting caught up in the likes, not getting caught up in the comments. I mean, when we play sports, we didn't have that gratification. You got gratification from getting. For me, it was from winning. Like it wasn't thereafter, and there was no in between where I could repost the win and get. So I just think. I mean, this is the new world. So I do think
mhm,
having rules, I think having the same discipline that they have in sports, it's like you have to have a discipline in this domain as well, and you have to know where your guardrails are, and you have to know that it is an addictive media format, and just like anything that's addictive, you have to moderate it. So
yep,
yeah, you know,
yeah. No, I
you want to
love
talk
it.
about that later, Steve? I'm happy to talk about that later. I got a lot
Yeah,
of ideas about
yeah.
that.
Got to put the guardrails up though. I love that.
Yeah, man. Put the guardrails up, man.
Yeah.
So,
Well, thank you so much, Des. This has been a great conversation, just learning a little bit more about you and your story and the great advice that you have in the space. And, the fact that you get to be creative and help others be creative is just inspiring to hear. So thank you for your time today. Thank you for all of those who are watching this episode of Transition Talks. Please continue to support, the work that we're doing is shedding light on the transition space for our athletes. And as always, if you have a story to tell, please let us know, and we will continue to promote and highlight those different opportunities for other athletes and other people who are interested in the transition can learn. So, thank you once again, Des, for your time.
I appreciate you, Steve, and thank you for having me. It
Yeah,
was a ton of fun.
no doubt. Until next time.
Salute.